Hey guys, welcome back to another podcast with Talking with Tyler. And on this podcast is the first edition of the new NFL season. And I'm going to be talking about today the Jets game versus the Bills. The Jets won 22-16 versus the Bills on Monday Night Football under the lights. And the Jets won in overtime, coming back versus the Bills, being down at 13-3 at half. Even after Rodgers getting injured, Wilson made a comeback and led the Jets to victory on Gibson's game-winning 65-yard punt return. And starting with the defense, Quentin Williams recovered a fumble that ultimately led up to the field goal in the fourth. And Quincy Williams had 10 tackles, second on defense in tackles. And the leading tackler last night was DJ Reed. He had 11 tackles. And on the offense, Breece Hall had 10 attempts for 127 yards. Garrett Wilson, 5 for 5 receiving for 34 yards and a touchdown. And Zach Wilson, 14 for 21 for 140 yards. And Josh Allen threw for 3 interceptions to Jordan Whitehead. So I have my dad back here for another podcast. I'm going to ask him some questions. So, Dad, how did you like the Jets' performance even after the first half? Like, it was a little rough in the first half after Rodgers got injured. How did you like the second half adjustment?
Well, obviously being a lifelong Jet fan, it was difficult to see Rodgers go down and seemingly all of the hopes of every Jet fan that have been in misery for the last 30 to 40 years. But I give this team a lot of credit. They were extremely resilient. Took them a quarter, a half to basically, gather themselves. But in the second half, I thought the offensive line did a lot better job of protecting their quarterback, allowing Wilson to get some open looks, scramble a little bit, and really, really gritty performance under not such great, circumstances with the injury. We were both there at the game. It was extremely, extremely loud in the building and electric. When Rodgers went down, the air came out of the stadium pretty quickly. But I give the fans a lot of credit. It was still a packed house at the end of the game, and they were rewarded to an exciting overtime victory, again led by Gibson, who had a 65-yard punt return. Pretty good for a undrafted free agent who was one of the last guys to make the team, as we saw in Hard Knocks.
Yep. Dad, how did you like the Jets' defense?
I thought their defense played well. I mean, Josh Allen and the Bills, are favored to get to, win the division and potentially go to AFC and having to play either Cincinnati or Kansas City. So anytime that you're able to hold this team to under 20 points, you should have an opportunity to win. As you referenced before, Jordan Whitehead had 3 interceptions. Quincy Williams had a huge tackle in the first drive of overtime where they got a 3-and-out, which allowed great field position for us and the punt, which we were able to run back. Again, DJ Reed had 11 tackles, which was great. Jets had 5 sacks in total, 2 by Quentin Jefferson, which is usually a name that you don't get to hear. But they got after Allen pretty good. And again, 3 interceptions, like you said. Also, I think the crowd got an assist for that fumble. We were super, super loud, and the ball got snapped off his helmet, and the Jets were swarming around it. Were able to pick up that ball and get it back, which we were able to go down and get a field goal to take the lead in the fourth quarter.
Yep. Sauce Gardner, the good matchup yesterday was Sauce Gardner versus Stephon Diggs, even Sauce Gardner was struggling a little bit in the first half. He just wasn't like himself. He just missed a couple tackles. Then he got better as time went on and held Diggs to 102 yards and a touchdown. But they really, he did good, Sauce Gardner, on defense, and I think the defense really put them in the offense in a good position. That's what made them come back because of the defense.
Sorry to cut you off. In the post-game interview, I know you didn't have the opportunity to see it because it was on late last night. They interviewed Sauce, and he said that he took ownership of not playing well in the first half. He said he didn't have his legs under him. I guess it being a night game, he said he should have eaten a little bit more, and he said he felt the same way he did when we played Jacksonville at that night game last year. So for being a second-year player, a young guy, identifying maybe an issue, he said he should have taken care of his body a little bit better and been prepared. I give him a lot of credit for being mature enough to know and put some of the ownership on him. He expects to play better. He's defensive rookie of the year, and I like that he took ownership of his first half. And he said in the second half he felt a little bit better and obviously played a little bit better. So I was happy to hear that. Pleasantly surprised in this new NFL age and society that we have. People always place the blame and pass the buck, but he did not do that. So that was refreshing.
Yep, and in the second half, the Jets held the Bills to only 3 points in the second half. The Bills were up 13-3 at half, so that was good that the Jets only held them to 3 points, and they scored 19 of their own.
So one thing that we were going to try and add this year to talking with Tyler is studs and duds. So we're going to go into the studs and duds portion. So studs are people that we thought played well. Duds were people that we thought could have played better, had better games. Before the podcast started, we talked about studs. Who were your studs for the game, Tyler?
Quincy Williams.
All right, tell us why he was a stud.
Because he had 10 tackles and he had some really big hits for losses.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that one play in that open field, again, Jets pinned Buffalo back in there deep in their own zone. Again, the crowd was electric in the first play of overtime. Caused a false start, which gave them 1st and 15, and we were able to hold them. I think it was a 3rd and 12, and they threw an out pass to one of their receivers, and he was going up the sidelines, and Quincy just got shot out of a cannon and just leveled their player, and it was 4th and 3, and they were forced to punt. If you ask me for studs, obviously Jordan Whitehead, 3 interceptions in a game, ties the most interceptions in a game for Jets history with several other players, but 3 interceptions in a game is quite impressive. And I'm gonna give 2 other studs. Studs, I'm gonna go with special teams. Obviously, Gibson did a great job at the 65-yard punt. And Zerline was 3 for 3 with an extra point. We had a delay of game on the extra point, which was mind-boggling to me, but he made another one. So theoretically, he was 4 for 4 for extra point. 2 for 2 for extra points. And then I'm going to say the New York Jets organization. Now, people are going to ask why, but going into the stadium, we received LED wristbands, right, T?
Yeah.
And tell us a little bit about those wristbands. What happened in the stadium?
The wristbands, we got a wristband going in, and the wristbands lit up through the Bluetooth, and the whole stadium had flashing LED lights on the wristband by Method Man. He did his own light show and had fireworks before the game. Yeah, and the lights were like choreographed, red, white, and blue for the national anthem. And then during songs, on the beats of the songs, the lights, the green lights were flashing and yellow lights and white lights. And it really added to the atmosphere last night. I think
They dimmed the lights in the stadium, and after scores, you saw the lights going, and it really got the crowd almost like infectious, where it was crazy. And then at the end, when we won the game, nobody left. Everyone just stayed there and continued to cheer, and they dimmed the lights, and these green, tens of thousands of lights were blinking inside the stadium. So I give the Jets a lot of credit for that. I thought that was a cool addition. I hope that's something that they continue to do for all home games. I think it was definitely there. So duds. You think we Jets had any duds, or maybe the Bills?
I just think the dud was in the first half when the Jets' offensive line couldn't protect the quarterback. That's how Aaron Rodgers went down, was because almost every snap that Aaron Rodgers was in, there was a defender in breach.
In his face, yeah. I mean, after the first three dropbacks, he was picking himself off the ground, and we both looked at each other and said, he's getting hit on every play. And then the fourth play was the straw that broke the camel's back, so to say, or the injury heard round the world. But he lasted 4 snaps, torn Achilles, out for the season, $35 million contract, $8.75 million per snap this year. And that was there. So I would say the offensive line struggled, but they did a better job in the second half. For duds, I would say Josh Allen. Josh Allen did not have a great opening night, 29 for 41 for 236, but 3 interceptions. Really sloppy throwing the ball down the field, not really protecting the ball. Also had that fumble, which was huge. That was in his own zone, which gave us the opportunity to go down and take the lead. And again, I think one thing we didn't really talk too much about, but Zach Wilson. I mean, Zach Wilson was 14 for 21, which is really 66%, 140 yards. He did have the 1 interception, which could have been costly. He gave them the ball back. But, he really had no intention or thoughts that he would ever get into this game. And he stepped in and did an admirable job and really navigated this offense that was directly built around Aaron Rodgers with another new offensive coordinator and all these puzzle pieces that he really hasn't worked with on the first string, to go out there and really, manage the game and give his team an opportunity to win. I believe he has to get some credit for that, for being a professional, being ready. Maybe that's an influence on Aaron Rodgers had on him throughout training camp and everything else. Only time will tell. Who do we play next week?
The Cowboys.
How's their defense?
Really good. With Micah Parsons and everybody, they're just really good. Dak Prescott's just been playing good lately. And they beat the Giants the other night, 40-0 at the Giants' home stadium at MetLife. And I think it's going to be a tough matchup for the Jets, but I think they're up for the task. This game is on Sunday at 4:25 in Dallas. So we'll see what the Jets are going to do. Maybe they'll get a new, probably not from today to Sunday, a new quarterback since Aaron Rodgers is hurt. They're probably just going to stick with Zach Wilson for a couple more games. And, hopefully Zach Wilson can lead the offense to another victory. Thank you guys for listening.